Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 recently came out, and with it we got more puzzles, more scares, and more characters to be terrified of. But we also got some more questions. We got answers, but as per typical indie horror fashion, we left being more confused than when we started. Meaning that of course, there are theories, and some of those are what we're exploring today. Let's do it. At 10, the Other Mother. The prototype, also known as Experiment 1006 or Claw in its plaque form, is a mysterious entity mentioned within 2 VHS tapes. No information is currently known about the prototype's appearance or motives, but it is presumed to be the main antagonist of Poppy Playtime. Originally we thought that Huggy was 1006, but no, it was this thing. But you know, we've actually seen this character before, in the first tape. And in a thumbnail for a video called Poppy Playtime Chapter 2 Enemy Confirmed, Terrico compared the prototype hand to a poster from Coraline. But honestly, my sister is obsessed with Coraline, so I can say straight up that this looks like the hand of the Other Mother when she starts going crazy, which makes me think, were these creations inspired by the happenings in Coraline? Like seemingly normal characters at first until they go on the attack, which makes them look crazy and horrifying. Could it go so far that the prototype is actually the Other Mother, and all of this is a promotion for some Coraline crossover? Probably not, but certainly something to think about. You're welcome. In at 9, Bron. Bron the dinosaur, also simply known as Bron, is a toy created by Playtime Co. and makes 2 appearances in Chapter 2, specifically in the storage facility, where I ended up breaking my hand in game and literally became Mommy Longlegs. But before that, I noticed that the Bron you're supposed to pick up with the claw, because he's really heavy, actually looks a hell of a lot like the one in the original Poppy Playtime trailer, the one that turns his head outside the Make a Friend machine. And while they're not in the same place, you have to admit that it's a pretty freaky coincidence. Plus, I mean, even if it is a big statue, they would never make something like that solid. It would be a shell at most, meaning that it shouldn't be too heavy for the lift to actually push up. Meaning that there is something inside that thing. Something heavy. Possibly something organic. Maybe it's a failed experiment, or maybe we just gave Bron the motivation that he needs. And at 8, Poppy was lying. I think we all knew, or at least the majority of people figured, that Poppy wasn't going to be this perfect soul despite whoever ended up possessing her. I thought it was pretty obvious that we were getting bamboozled, however maybe Circus Baby has given me some trust issues. And you know what, it actually turned out to be correct, with Poppy betraying us last minute and sending us even deeper into the factory rather than helping us escape like she promised. But it's possible that she was lying even more than she originally was. This whole setup could have been a plan the whole time, okay? Poppy could be in control of the other creatures. Hell, Poppy could be the prototype for all we know, with that Other Mother hand thing hiding beneath her dress like some demented demon tail. It would also explain how we don't see the prototype until Chapter 2 after Poppy was released. Could Poppy be Experiment 1006? In my eyes, it's definitely possible. And at 7, Kissy is a good guy. Kissy Missy is a pink version of Huggy introduced in Chapter 1 as a poster, but made a real appearance in Chapter 2 as the worst lever puller ever. She was originally meant to be a girlfriend to Huggy Wuggy, so in essence she's just Huggy but the typical girlish color of pink. However, many fans are confused as to the reasoning behind Kissy helping us to continue, and some have drawn the conclusion that unlike Poppy, Kissy is actually going to be helpful. And I just want to say, don't get your hopes up. You think that girl is going to be helpful, and at first she is, but after a few years, for some reason she starts getting cold and doesn't seem to want to be around you. But whenever you bring it up, she ends up making it about her and how you're hurting her by asking about what's hurting you. And before you know it, you're walking along the train tracks wondering if you should get off, and sorry, that got a little intense for a second. Either way, I'm not too sure that Kissy is helping us, but rather she probably did it because otherwise we would have just left the factory instead of going deeper. So, yeah. In at 6, Jamie B. Honey. Coming from the wonderful mind of MatPat, Jamie B. Honey is the name that Matt is guessing belongs to our player character, thanks to a load of letters scattered along the grounds in the area that has the slides in Chapter 2. Based on the letters there, MatPat believes that Jamie B. Honey makes sense with the other names and is a reasonable conclusion. And honestly, I wouldn't doubt it. Hearing the name of Jamie B. Honey just sounds like it would be in the game, or even in Bendy and the Ink Machine. Like, that's such an indie game character name. I don't know how else to describe it. What do you think? With those letters, are there any other names that could sound like Elliot, Ludwig, or the like? Be sure you let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see your ideas. Halfway through in at number 5, prototype is Afton. Aha, it's definitely a leap, but I gotta get those FNAF keywords and tags in here somehow, because this prototype hand was certainly giving me another mysterious hand kind of vibes. Yes, I think that the idea for this prototype hand came from the iconic Security Breach PlayStation trailer scene when Burntrap's hand reaches out from the recharge station and claws at the floor. The animations are similar, the vibe is similar, the only difference is that I didn't break Poppy Playtime multiple times while I was playing it. But is it possible that Experiment 1006, aka the prototype, is actually William Afton? We actually made a whole video discussing how Afton could fit into the Poppy Playtime world, but we never considered if he was the prototype. If he was though, it would simply be another universe that the FNAF story takes place in. But, like the butterfly effect, one change resulted in a totally different outcome. I doubt that's what they're planning on, but it's fun to think about nonetheless. And at 4, Huggy will return. Is it possible that Huggy Wuggy could make a return in a future chapter? Absolutely, it's an indie horror game, they can do whatever they want. But is it likely? Actually, it seems so. See, Huggy basically became the mascot for the series, despite the namesake Poppy being present in both chapters, because we've spent maybe around 5 minutes with the demented demon doll. So in my mind, yes, Huggy could make a return, especially when we didn't see 1006 grab him like it did with Mommy Longlegs. Plus, additionally, in the water treatment facility in chapter 2, you can see a wall with some blood and blue fur leading to a vent on the wall. This could have been where Huggy crawled to after bashing his head multiple times on the way down in chapter 1, and this could even be where Huggy fell to. So, based on this one detail, Huggy Wuggy may make his vengeful return in a later chapter. But will we fall victim to him, or will we have some help from a certain pink monster? Getting close to the end, and at number 3, put you back together. Have you ever accidentally brought your dead daughter back from death and put her in a doll, but then absolutely forgot how you did it? Well, apparently you're not alone, because now the theory is that instead of Stella Graber being the human turned into Poppy, that it's instead the dead daughter of Elliot Ludwig, the creator of Playtime Co., who, as we learned from these tapes in chapter 1, was pushed to his lowest of lows by the death of a family member. And while it's not confirmed who died, given that Enchanted Mob has made a lot of FNAF content in the past, Mob Games probably used it as partial inspiration for Poppy Playtime, resulting in at least some slight comparisons, like the death of a child, which in my mind at least counts currently as evidence towards it being the intended story, but like at least the intended story that it is now. I mean, like, who knows what they plan on doing in the future? Like, Scott changed the story halfway through, right? So they could do it as well. It's an indie horror game. Of course, it's gonna have some dead kids possessing things. I feel like that's kind of inevitable. But ultimately, in at number 2, Kissy hated Huggy. Kissy Missy makes a minor appearance in chapter 2 in the cart corridors. She is first seen walking towards the player in a similar style to how Huggy Wuggy was walking towards the vent chase scene, but she looks at the player for a short moment and then notices the lever next to her. She proceeds to then try to pull it downwards, she does it unsuccessfully on her first try, but then she manages to get it there a second try. That's why you always get back on the horse. And then once she pulls it, the metal gate starts to open. As the gate slowly rises up, she looks at the player once more and then walks away. Once the player reaches the end of the corridor from which she had actually come from, Kissy is now nowhere to be seen. But why would she help the player? It seems kind of redundant that we're literally trapped and ripe for the taking, so just like kill us and move on, right? Well, some think that Kissy Missy actually hated Huggy Wuggy and was glad that you took care of him. Her digital collectible profile also says, quote, Kissy Missy is more than just Huggy Wuggy's better half. She's a beacon of Playtime Co. policies and won't hold back from letting the people know about it. So maybe she was just doing her job and preventing a workplace accident from happening since we were in fact trapped. The only question is, how did she know that we were there? And finally, in at number 1, we are the prototype. Now, I know I've suggested this before, but what if we are still the prototype? Experiment 1006. It seems a bit wild, but what have we seen of the prototype? So far, their hand. A single hand. Hell, even the monitor showcasing this creature ended up just showing a hand. But why? Is this creature just a hand? I mean, it seems a bit extreme, but it is possible. Since after all, what's the one thing that we don't see our characters supposedly having? Hands. We have to use a grab pack to actually interact with things that don't just push open. So could we really not have any hands and are just trying to find our missing piece? Mommy Longlegs knew that we used to work at the Playtime Co. facility, and the prototype is listed as being capable of cooperation, but they're also listed as being extremely intelligent. And what have we been doing throughout these games? We are solving puzzles that get more and more complicated and showing our intelligence. There are quite a few parallels between us and the prototype, but it's only a question of when that might be revealed. That's all the time we have for today, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been in Shower Me Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.